Right, let's start today's session. This is the second demo session. In the last demo session, we were discuss about basics of .NET 8 subject information. So we discussed in the last lecture what is .NET and what is the difference between .NET Framework as well as .NET Core, and what kind of subjects we are going to deal, especially in .NET Core package. So one is C#.NET and ASP.NET Core, MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, and Microsoft SQL Server. I also explain clearly each subject purpose also. Like C#.NET is a programming language. It is used to develop the coding part for application, and ASP.NET Core is server-side technology, and as well as framework, which can be used to develop web applications. And MVC through we can design web application model view controller. And entity framework also we are going to use without passing raw SQL statements to perform any database operations. We use entity framework. And web API just for generating an API tool which can be provide the communication between two or more applications. As well as we are going to learn one database tool, that is Microsoft SQL Server database, to store the data, customer details, or edit the data, delete the data purpose. We use Microsoft SQL Server. So this is what we discuss basic information in the last lecture. And today I'm going to explain code execution process in .NET. That means whenever the moment you write the code, okay, so how the code execution process is going to take place in .NET. So let me discuss that. Code execution process in .NET. So how the code is going to be executed. Whenever you write the code, like programming language code, how it is going to be executed. And especially in the .NET program or .NET code execution process, there are two compilations takes place, sir. Compilations will be two. First, SC. SC means here, I'll give you description also. SC means source code here. Source code is compiled by respective language compiler, that is LC. After compilation of language compiler, then it produces a special code that is called MSIL code, or we can call it as CIL, Common Intermediate Language. So this is first compilation. But in the next compilation, this MSIL code or CIL code, Common Intermediate Language code, can be transferred to CLR JIT compiler. There is a compiler called CLR JIT compiler. And this compiler is, after successful compilation, it produces a native code or bytecode, we can say that. Finally, this bytecode can be transferred to operating system for further process. Okay. Yeah. So this is a first compilation actually. First compilation this is. And this is second compilation. So CLR JIT compiler can be performed second compilation. Okay. First compiler and second compilation. Two compilations will take place. If you write any language code, actually .NET programming languages are different, but we are going to use only C#.NET. Majority of the people in real time who wants to develop any application using .NET framework, they use generally C#.NET. But .NET support many languages like C#.NET, VB.NET, J#.NET, F#.NET, C++.NET, Iron Ruby, Iron Python, Windows PowerShell, like that. In any language through we can build, we can develop .NET code. But the most popular language among other languages is C#.NET. So when we start writing code in C#.NET programming language, so how the code is going to be execute, what is the process is going to take place internally. This is I'm explaining now. Okay. Let me explain detail, but let me write the abbreviations here. SSC means what I said, source code here. Source code. LC means language compiler. Language compiler. LC means. MSIL means Microsoft Intermediate Language. Microsoft Intermediate Language. It also called as CIL. CIL means Common Intermediate Language. Common Intermediate Language. Okay, CLR means Common Language Runtime. Common Language Runtime. And JIT is there, just-in-time compiler. We can say that JIT, just-in-time compiler. So this is total abbreviations. Listen carefully. When we write code in C#.NET language, for example, every language is having its own compiler. So I'm writing C#.NET source code. Whatever you type the C#.NET code, that is called source code first of all. Initially, before going to compile and execute, that is source code only. Generally, source code is compiled by language compiler, sir. Language compiler. And that language compiler, after successful compilation, it will produce MSIL code or CIL code. MSIL means Microsoft Intermediate Language, or CIL means Common Intermediate Language. MSIL or CIL. This is first compilation. And after that, this Microsoft Intermediate Language code can be transferred to CLR. CLR is the main component in entire the .NET program execution process. Common Language Runtime, we can call it as CLR means. How Java programmers, they use JVM, Java Virtual Machine. Okay. Same in .NET, we are going to use CLR component, Common Language Runtime component we are going to use. This CLR is having another compilation, JIT compiler, just-in-time compiler. This is going to take place second compilation of .NET program execution. Once second compilation successfully done by CLR JIT compiler, and CLR Common Language Runtime will produce a bytecode or native code. That means it is local to the operating system, native code to the operating system. This code is completely binary format because operating system can understand only binary format. Finally, the code is what we can say processed by operating system. The code is executed by CLR, but final output will be processed by operating system. So this is how, when we write the code in .NET, especially C#.NET, how the code is going to be processed, execution process. Whatever we write the code, that is called source code. First, it will go to language compiler, language compiler. If we write code in C#.NET, C#.NET compiler will be there. After successful compilation, MSIL code will be produced. This code can be transferred to CLR. In the CLR, JIT compiler will compile the code again and it will execute the code. After completion of execution, it will produce what code? Bytecode. Bytecode can be transferred to operating system for further process. This is how in .NET, in every programming language, like no matter what programming language you are using, like C#.NET, VB.NET, J#.NET, F#.NET. Okay. So any language, the code execution process will be like this only. But we are going to use, in our case, C#.NET language only. Okay. C#.NET is our programming language mainly. Right? Fine, sir. Now coming to this. Next, especially look at this here. CLR is there. No, it is one of the important component in entire the .NET program execution, sir. Without CLR, you can't run the application. How Java programmers will have the JVM architecture, same .NET programmers are having CLR architecture, Common Language Runtime. Okay, that's what I can say. In .NET, there are two important components are there. .NET components, we can call it as. Without these .NET components, you can't able to write the code, you can't able to run the code. Because as a .NET programmer, we must write the code and we must execute the code. So writing the code is important, execution of the code also important. Both are important to us. So there are two important components are there in .NET. First component is BCL, we can call it as. That indicates that base class libraries. Base class libraries. These also called as FCL, sir. That means framework class libraries. Framework class libraries. Either you can say base class libraries or framework class libraries. Anything you can say that. Next component is CLR. As we discussed, this is the important component in .NET code execution process also, CLR. It stands for Common Language Runtime. This is CLR component. Why these two components are very, very important in .NET program execution process? I'll tell you. One of the first component is, this component is for writing code purpose. Without this component, you can't able to write logic. After implementation of the logic, we need to execute our code also, no? For execution of the code purpose, what is required? CLR. So first component is going to help to the .NET programmers to write the code properly by using internal libraries. Second component will help to the programmer to execute their program properly. So one component is for writing the code. Second component is for running the code, means execution of the code only. So both are important to us. Writing the code is important, execution of the code is important. Let's talk about base class libraries or framework class libraries. Class library means what, first of all? See, sir, class library is nothing but it's a collection of built-in classes. The moment when we download and install .NET Core framework, automatically there are built-in class libraries will be installed. That libraries are, each library is having different types of predefined classes. Each predefined class contain predefined methods, and each method already pre-implemented. Means ultimately I can say these base class libraries are just ready-made resources. Already what they have implemented, they are giving directly in the form of libraries. As a .NET programmer, we have to consume or use these libraries into our application development. So it's called built-in libraries. If there is no base class libraries or framework class libraries, then you have to write the code from scratch. It will take, obviously, development time will be increased. Just because of .NET provide these base class libraries or framework class libraries only, the development of project time will be reduced. Okay, because all maximum 40%, 30 to 40% of the code is contributed from .NET components through only. Rest of the code we need to contribute from our side. So it will be easy to implement the application. When compared to Java, development cost and development time obviously will be reduced in .NET for sure. Because .NET offer plenty of libraries to the .NET programmers to fulfill their requirement easily. You need not to put much more efforts how we put effort in Java development process. That is the advantage of .NET actually. When compared to Java, I'm speaking, .NET is pretty easy to implement the application because they are offering lots of libraries. See, base class libraries are just nothing but header files in C++. How C++ programmers can be used header files before going to start writing their code, no, on the top of the program. Like hash include stdioh standard input output, hash include conio.h, like that header files, no. Same similarly in .NET, we can call it as base class library. And how Java programmers, they import packages before going to write the logic. So we in .NET, we are calling this as libraries only. Libraries, or we can call it as namespaces. Later we'll talk about clearly what is namespace. But in general, technical terminology we use in .NET namespaces, importing namespaces or using namespaces. In .NET namespaces, Java packages, Python modules, C++ header files. The name is different, purpose is same only. So this is. But in .NET base class libraries, the base class libraries are in two different format. One is .exe. .exe. This is one of the format. Base class libraries are in the form of two different ways. First way is .exe. Okay. Next one is DLL. This is DLL. DLL. So what is .exe, sir? Simple. .exe is an executable file. It is an executable file. This executable file is having an entry point. Entry point is nothing but what main method of the program. Static void main or main method, anything. The .exe is an executable file. This is having an entry point. Entry point of every program is nothing but what? Main method. So that is the reason why whenever you double click on .exe file, your program will directly shows the output because it's going to be start running process and it will display the output also. Got clarity? It will display the output clearly. So why? Because it's having entry point, no main method. Yes, but what is DLL, sir? First of all, DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. Dynamic Link Library. Okay. And it is not an executable file. It is just a supportive file. It is supportive file. It is not having any entry point. So no entry point of the program. So .dll don't have any entry point generally. So .exe is an executable file that is entry point, which is having an entry point that is main method. DLL is nothing but dynamic link library. It is just supportive file. We don't have entry point here. No entry point here. This is main method is not there, sir, in dynamic link library. I'll tell you. .exe where we can double click on it directly, it will execute and it will show the output. But DLL is nothing but dynamic link library. What is the meaning of dynamic? Runtime. During the program execution time, the link is going to add it to .exe in the form of libraries. That's what we can say dynamic link library. Dynamically, the required libraries are linked to the .exe for executing program successfully. That's what DLL always will support to .exe in the form of linking the libraries. That's the reason we are calling it as supportive file. It is supportive file. It's not main file. Even in our upcoming sessions of C#.NET especially, we are going to prepare DLL files also. DLL files are very, very important in entire .NET development. DLL files are nothing but what? Reusability purpose. For example, programmer can implement lots of code. For that code, they can prepare DLL files. Once the DLL file is there for your code, that DLL files you can reuse many times wherever it is required without repeatedly implementation. But if you don't create DLL, compulsory we have to rewrite the logic every time whenever it is required. But that's not really required actually. Okay. One time if you implement and once we create a DLL file for your code, this DLL code, this DLL we can able to reuse into other applications also. Again and again, we need not to re-implement the logic every time when it is really required. That's what we can say dynamic link library is a supportive file. So .exe, DLL, these two are under comes into base class library. Every base class library in the form of two ways, .exe and DLL file. Next, I'm concluding that without base class libraries or framework class libraries, you can't able to write the program. Okay. So if writing program is important, without supporting these files or libraries, we can't start writing code. After completion of your code with the help of base class libraries, you need to run the code also. To run the code, what is required? Common language runtime is required. CLR component, we can call it as. This is our second component in .NET to execute the code properly, CLR. Okay, but CLR is also having four subcomponents are actually. While .NET program execution, CLR will provide runtime environment. But how CLR can provide runtime environment for all the entire .NET languages? Just because it's having four subcomponents again. One is CLS. That means Common Language Specification. This is one of the subcomponent of CLR. Next subcomponent is CTS. It stands for Common Type System. Common Type System. CTS. Next what? GC. It's very important component, subcomponent, garbage collector. Garbage collector. GC, garbage collector. Next one is JIT, just-in-time compiler. That's only JIT, just-in-time compiler. JIT means just-in-time compiler. So these are all four subcomponents which are associated with main components. Here in the CLR, every subcomponent is having its own task to do properly. If any subcomponent is not going to perform the task properly, then CLR will not provide the execution procedure for our .NET code. So every subcomponent is having its own task. I'll explain that each subcomponent purpose is what. Look at, sir. As I said, in .NET, we can write the logic in any language of .NET. I said that .NET is nothing but .NET is a framework. That framework will support to write code in different languages like C#.NET, VB.NET, J#.NET, F#.NET. Programmer choice. If they wanted to write code in C#.NET, they can write. Or some programmers, they are looking for VB.NET or J#.NET or F#.NET, like that. So programmers may write the logic in any language of .NET. Okay. But every language is having its own syntactical rules and regulations, like C#.NET syntactical rules and regulations are quite different. And VB.NET syntactical rules are different. J#.NET, F#.NET syntactical rules and regulations are different. So every language is having its own syntactical rules and regulations. One programming language cannot understand other programming language syntactical rules and regulations. But we are saying the CLR component will provide runtime environment for all .NET languages which are support. How it is? The CLS subcomponent is responsible to convert all the programming language syntactical rules and regulations into CLR understandable format. In the execution process, the moment when we go with execution with the C# rules or VB rules or J# rules, any rules, syntactical rules you mention in your code, that all syntactical rules and regulations will be converted into CLR understandable format by CLS only. That's where CLS is most important subcomponent in the process of converting all syntactical rules and regulations into CLR format. Okay, but here CLS responsible to convert rules and regulations into CLR format. But what about CTS? There is a next component. Observe here, CTS, Common Type System. It also called as Data Type System. Data Type System also we can call it as Data Type System. See, sir, every language is having its own data type system. Like C# data type system is different. VB.NET data type system is different. J# data types is different. User may write any language data types, no matter it is. Okay. So ultimately in the execution, coming to the execution process, while developing the logic, you have to use your own language data types only. But coming to the execution procedure, all data types should be converted into CLR understandable format only. So CTS is going to take responsible to convert all the programming language data type system into common type system, that is CLR data type system. CLR is having its own data type mechanism. It will convert into CLR type only. Who is convert that? CTS, Common Type System subcomponent, is able to convert all the programming language data type system format into CLR understandable format. But here in general CTS in CTS in entire .NET data types are two types actually. Value type or their reference types also there. Just I'm explaining basic information here. Later we'll go through programmatically what is value type, what is reference type. See, sir, value type means what? The value which is directly stored into the memory location. For example, here I'm defining the variable int a equals to 10, sir. I'm saying this 10 value directly store into which memory location? A memory location. Okay. This is value type. Reference type means what actually? The value which is not stored directly into the memory location, rather than it will refer to other memory location, like int b equals to a. Look, it's that already a is completely defined, which is having the value 10. But this A is not going to store the value 10, rather than it referred to the other type, that is B, reference type. So B is collecting the data from its reference type. So that's what it is called, reference type. So value type means the value which is going to store directly into the memory location of A, whereas reference type means the value which is not going to store directly into the memory location, rather than it will refer other memory location, that is B. This is called value type, I can say that simply. Got clarity? Yes. Now, this valid type always work with what mechanism? Stack mechanism. And reference type always work with what mechanism? Heap mechanism. So stack means, there is a procedure. We'll talk about this all stack and heap mechanism in upcoming sessions. First in, last out, last in, first out mechanism will be there in stack. But heap in the sense random memory location. So wherever the reference type means, wherever the memory space is there, randomly memory is allotted in this memory allocation process. So just get it the idea about what is reference and value type. Later we'll come across with coding part only. So these two value types and reference type under comes into what? CTS, common type system. So totally two subcomponents I explained so far under CLR. First CLS subcomponent will take responsible to convert all the syntactical rules and regulations convert into CLR format, whereas CTS is going to take responsible to convert all the programming language data type system into CLR understandable system. It will convert. Next, finally, garbage collector. It is very, very important subcomponent, sir. See, sir, as I said that it's garbage collector is one of the main important component in .NET especially. Even nowadays, all the languages also having garbage collector tool internally. So especially what is the garbage collector means, it is just provide automatic memory management processor. What is that? Automatic memory management. Look at this, garbage collector will provide automatic memory management. So automatic memory management. Yes, automatic memory management. Garbage collector purpose is it is used to provide automatic memory management. Simple. Automatic memory management means we will write a lot of code in our language like C#.NET. Okay, sometimes we can prepare objects also. That objects can be categorized into two types, objects in use. Next one is idled objects. Look at this, objects in use, idled objects. There are two types of objects. Finally, just as a programmer, we are trying to prepare a lot of objects in our application development. But garbage collector will do what? It will cross-verify what kind of objects are useful really, that is objects in use, and what objects are not useful to run our application properly, that is idled objects. These idled objects are called as what? Garbage objects. Look at this, these idled objects are called garbage objects only. So unnecessarily these objects are occupying the memory. Unnecessary it is going to be sit in the memory. This type of objects can be destroyed from the memory. And objects in use, useful objects purpose, we need to allot some memory. This process is nothing but automatic memory management. So automatic memory management is the simple process to consider all the objects and objects in use should be keep in memory. Idled objects should destroy from the memory. This will done by garbage collector only. Okay. Imagine if there is no garbage collector, and that means no one is there to perform cleanup activities, means idled objects removal process purpose, no one is there. And obviously we'll get memory issues while executing the program. So we never get memory issues while executing the program in .NET because of there is a subcomponent called garbage collector. Just because of this garbage collector only, we will overcome the memory issues because it will take care internally memory management completely. In what context the memory should allot, in what context the memory should destroy, all will take care by garbage collector only. Automatic memory management process is there. Okay, so this is garbage collector. While executing the code by CLR, it is one of the component which allocate memory and which is deallocate memory, which is unnecessary. And finally, JIT compiler is there, JIT, just-in-time compiler. This compiler can be used in .NET second compilation of .NET program execution, which is associated with CLR. So this is total code execution process in .NET components, what we have discussed in this session. Okay, just consider this is the second demo session, what we conducted now. In tomorrow, we will start with our main subject, C#.NET language introduction, and we will start coding part with Visual Studio. I will also launch the Visual Studio 2022 editor, sir. This is the editor tool which we use continuously in our development process, Visual Studio 2022. Okay, so Visual Studio 2022 is our permanent editor tool. In every day, I'm going to use our coding purpose Visual Studio 2022 only. So tomorrow this is complete .NET introduction from the beginning. It's a complete theoretical part, but it's very, very important, sir, actually in interviews. Okay, you may face a lot of questions. What I explained today, like base class library means what, .exe, DLL, CLS, CLR, all they might ask the questions for sure. So tomorrow I'm going to start with C#.NET introduction, and we will launch Visual Studio editor. On that editor, how to create applications, how to write the logic also will be discussed in detail, sir. Okay. So if you have any question, you can feel free to ask me now regarding today's session or yesterday's session. So I'll give you answers. I'll wait here for few more minutes. Just post your question if you have any doubt. So our regular class time after completion of demo is 6 to 7 actually. Okay. 6 to 7. In future, it might be 7 to 8 it will be. So 10 days back, I have started 7 to 8 PM .NET batch also. There were almost 15 students are there. So after few days, also your batch timing is also going to be changed. That is 7 to 8. Not now. I'll bring this complete topics up to what I discuss for them. After that, I'll ask you to come at 7 to 8. But initial days of .NET programs, we have to attend for 6 PM to 7 PM only for few days. I'll inform you that when it should be 7 to 8 clearly. Okay. So see you tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow. It's going to be an important session tomorrow. C#.NET with Visual Studio settings. If you don't get Visual Studio settings and all, it's a hard thing to practice C#.NET programs. So just you can take 2 more demo sessions so that you will get clarity. Okay, tell me.
Yes, sir. During this course, we will build any project or not, sir?
Obviously, projects building is there in ASP.NET development.
In ASP.NET Core, no?
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.